Hey everyone, and welcome. So, I've been poring over the schedule for the upcoming IATFL 2026 conference, and wow, one theme is just popping out all over the place. We're seeing a huge shift in how we approach reading. Seriously, it feels like we're on the verge of a full on reading revolution. So, yeah, let's get right into it.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? Forced to read a book for class that you just could not get into. You're just staring at the page and the words are just not landing. It's a feeling that can honestly turn people off from reading for good. And that's a massive hurdle, especially when we're talking about teenagers and adult learners. But what if? What if the problem isn't the student at all? What if it's the approach we're taking? So, the big idea that's buzzing right now is that we need to totally rethink how we do reading in the classroom. It's less about taking one difficult book and tearing it apart piece by piece, and much more about building a genuine, a love for reading that actually sticks with you. And the key to this whole revolution, it's a concept called extensive reading. And really, it all comes down to two incredibly simple but really powerful ideas: choice and enjoyment. This isn't about analyzing grammar or dissecting a sentence. It's about letting students get lost in a story, an article, whatever it is, that they actually find interesting. The whole point is to read a lot of stuff you actually like. Okay, and this slide just lays it out so perfectly. Over here on the left, you've got intensive reading. That's probably what you remember from school, right? The teacher's in charge, the texts are tough, it's all about analysis. But on the right, that's the new path: extensive reading. It's centered on the student, it uses texts they can actually read without a dictionary every 2 seconds, and it's all for the pure enjoyment and meaning of it. It is a total game changer.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The impact of this isn't just about getting better at reading. No, the benefits go way deeper than that. We're talking about things that actually shape who we are as people. Just look at this session coming up at IATFL. Ekaterini Artemis Tetsaki is exploring how the worlds and words we get from extensive reading directly affect our social-emotional learning. See, this isn't just an academic skill, it's about personal growth. And think about it, right? When a teenager gets to choose a graphic novel about someone from a completely different background, they're not just reading, they're basically stepping into another person's shoes. That's how you foster empathy. When they relate to a character's struggles, that builds self-awareness. It completely transforms reading from this lonely task into this amazing tool for understanding ourselves and everyone around us. Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, right? But the big question is, how do you actually do this in a classroom, especially with teenagers or adults who might be a little skeptical about the whole thing? Well, the conference is apparently loaded with practical toolkits to help teachers do exactly that. Now, here's something specifically for those older students, which I find so cool. Oleri Quijada's session is on something called transactional strategies instruction. The idea here is that reading isn't passive. It's like having a conversation with the text. It teaches high schoolers to predict what's coming, to question what the author is trying to say, and to connect it all back to their own lives. They stop being just receivers of information and become active participants. And just to show how flexible these ideas are, there are also great strategies for the younger crowd. A workshop from Lidl by Janet Valdez digs into reciprocal reading. This is more of a team sport, a collaborative approach where students work in groups to figure out a text. But you see, the core idea is the exact same: make reading an active, shared experience. And here's what that actually looks like. The group works together to predict, what's going to happen next. They question things that are confusing. They help each other clarify new words, and then they summarize the main ideas together. It basically turns reading into a puzzle that they all get to solve as a team. And, these are just two examples. The fact that a major conference like IATFL has multiple sessions, 2 of them specifically named extensive reading, is a really big deal. It's a huge signal that this idea is officially moving from the sidelines into the mainstream. Which kind of brings us to the big picture. With all this momentum, what is the future of reading? Where is this whole revolution taking us? I love how one of the session titles frames this whole journey. Extensive reading has definitely had a troubled past, right? It was often ignored in favor of methods that were easier to test. But now it's having a brighter present. It's getting the spotlight. And its future seems to be all about integrating it as a core tool for building those critical 21st century skills. So if you boil it all down, what's the most crucial takeaway here? It's this:
We're seeing a fundamental change in philosophy. We're moving away from simply forcing students to read and shifting towards empowering them to want to read. It's a move from compliance to genuine motivation. And that empowerment is everything.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In an age of endless digital noise and distractions, could it be that this ancient technology, a book, is actually the most powerful tool we have for building the most modern skills we need? Empathy, self-awareness, and a lifelong love of learning? It's pretty amazing to think about.